Hello, everyone in viewer land. Welcome to the Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown. I'm your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras in California. But as you all know, I do not do this program by my lonesome.
That's right. My name is Mike Wazowski. I am on the East Coast. I am the East Coast host with the most, and I am here to help you through today's Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown.
Excellent, sir. So, any special plans for Thirsty Thursday today?
Oh, I got a long line of work. Let's see. What are we as soon as we're off the air here, I'll be doing the Daily Bullet with a friend of ours that we might be talking to rather soon.
Exactly. And what a great, you would think you've done this for a living. What a great transition. That's right, folks. As you know, on Thursdays for Thirsty Thursday, we like to bring on guest hosts to talk about the news with us. And today we have with us longtime friend and activist, media personality, chief cook and bottle washer. You know him, you love him, Mr. Paul Lathrop.
Gentlemen.
How are we doing today, sir?
Doing great this fine morning at mid-morning here in the Central Coast.
Excellent. So for those of us in our audience who don't know, and once again, people in the gun community know who you are. But a lot of folks, a lot of our listeners aren't necessarily in the in the 2A community. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Second Amendment Foundation, what we are the people who, if a state or the federal government infringes on your second rights, we sue their pants off. We have an awesome track record of taking state, local, and the federal government to court and getting your Second Amendment rights back. My boss, Alan Gottlieb, has a catchphrase he uses, and it's quite accurate: winning back your freedoms one lawsuit at a time. And that's what the SAF does. They brought me aboard to help spread the message and to help get the Second Amendment message across through social media is what my job is.
Excellent. So now you host a daily program called the Daily Bullet, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely. And folks, it comes on. It's on they're both their Facebook and their YouTube, right?
Yes, it is. It's at 5 p.m. Central Time every day. On Tuesdays, Craig comes on and joins me every Tuesday. And on Thursday, I've got this lunkhead Mike that comes on and joins me. So after this show wraps up, come over to the SAF's channels, whether on YouTube or Facebook, and come see it, be there.
Exactly. Folks, it's literally after this show. We usually go till about 40 after. And then literally at the top of the hour, you can tune in. On Tuesdays, me and Paul, and then on Thursdays, it's Mike and Paul. But every day, there's someone and Paul talking about the 2A news of the day. So it's a fun program. If you're looking for stuff aside from, the regular ABC channels or alphabet channels, folks, you can't find a better place than obviously here on The Rundown and on the Daily Bullet.
Craig, did I just hear you say you supported ABC? Is that what I heard you say?
No, I did not. I said if you don't want to watch stuff on the ABC channels or the alphabet channels.
Gotcha. Okay, the alphabet channons. Gotcha. Okay.
Run by the alphabet people. If you're
tired of chicken noodle news, yes.
do not bring up the alphabet people. We will get
Dave
canceled.
Chappelle's in a fight with the alphabet people. Don't go there. We've covered that enough.
All right. Well, hey, speaking of the alphabet people and ABC News and media and all of that, let's get into today's news. All right. Now, the first story we're going to be talking about has to do with an article that was in the Atlantic. And I know Mike always gives me a hard time whenever I quote the Atlantic, but I keep saying I love to debunk some of the BS that comes out of the mainstream media, especially some of their ill-informed opinions. And recently there was an opinion in the Atlantic that basically said that the Second Amendment was basically infringing upon the First Amendment, and that individuals who exercise their right to keep and bear arms Well, the fact that they actually exist, the other people, in particular, their thing is people on the left, well, they're scared to exercise their rights because, the other folks are armed. Now, before I get into my take on it, I wanted to see what you gentlemen thought. Who'd like to go first? Paul, maybe?
Well, I looked at this article, and the research they quote was funded by Bloomberg's Everytown. So, gee, do you think that's skewed a little bit? Secondly, the question in the research is, if there are a bunch of people protesting, openly carrying guns, are you going to show up? You know what? I'm not going to show up if there are a bunch of angry people with guns around, because I'm smart. If there are a bunch of people that are angry about something with guns around, I'm not going to be there, because I don't go to stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things. If there are a bunch of angry people openly carrying firearms, that's a stupid place. So this is a huge nothing story with written on huge nothing research by the Atlantic. So it was written exclusively for the left.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, they got the quotes they make up in here, just like Paul said. Their research here is it should be called lack of research. This is an opinion piece, an editorial at best. It says things like what most people do not realize is that the Second Amendment has become, in recent years, a threat to the First Amendment. People cannot freely exercise their speech when they fear for their lives. And who are these people? Again, this is just like Paul just pointed out. Who are these people that we're talking about? These people that are afraid, these people that are bringing the guns, these people that all of a sudden realize this is nothing but propaganda from Everytown for gun safety, crazy moms against everything, and all the Bloomberg people.
Well, it's funny, Mike, that you say that, because, see, we actually had a Republican legislator in California introduce a bill a couple of years ago that would have actually made it so that individuals. So what they wanted to do was, he saw the Antifa protesters and whatnot were showing up at protests, and they were bringing like big, huge sticks they said were to hold signs, and water bottles that were filled with, that were frozen with water in them, Molotov cocktails. And so he wrote a bill to basically make it so that you can't bring certain things to a protest. And included in there, he had firearms. Now, he had no exemption for concealed carry permit holders. And lo and behold, he lost his mind and got upset when we told him, yeah, no, you got to exempt concealed carry permit holders. When we told him his bill was an anti-gun bill. And the funny part was we got raked through the coal by him. And he was like, let me clarify. He tried. We basically, when he refused to change the bill and then tried to throw us under the bus, we drug him under the bus. And it was pretty bad. It was so bad he had to get a friend of his who was a columnist to try and write a hit piece on us. And the funny part was going back after it was all said and done, we were able to note that not a single pro-gun or Republican legislator voted for his bill. Every vote that he got for his bill was from anti-gun Democrats. This is all, you're right, the narrative is a lie. In many cases, what they're talking about is these individuals who are openly carrying at protests. Number one, they're almost always at their own protests, right? So they're at a pro-gun, pro-liberty rally that they're organizing that's on their side. And the counter-protesters show up to their rallies. So that's number one. But the other one, when they were talking about the whole George Floyd thing, those weren't protesters. Those weren't counter-protesters. Those were individuals who were there protecting businesses that the protesters were showing up to loot, rob, and destroy. But that's the narrative that obviously you're not going to hear from the Atlantic.
I love the idea of firearms being present at First Amendment rallies or any type of public gathering. Let's look back at in Virginia just 2 years ago when the VCDL put together the rally there outside the state capitol. Remember, they put up their firearms exclusionary zone. I love the idea that the citizen can show up with the firearm, whether that be the long gun strapped on the back, the handgun in a holster on the side, because that tells the public official, hey, we just want to remind you what all of the amendments are, and that we're here and we want to make sure our voice is heard, because you will not rock and bottle us. You will not set the dogs on us. You will not put the fire hoses on us. Remember, in the 50s and 60s, our black brothers and sisters could not do that because they had been banned the carrying of firearms under Jim Crow laws. Well, not so much anymore. Second Amendment supporters will stand there shoulder to shoulder. We're not really worried about race or creed or religion and all that nonsense. We're worried about constitutionality. All right, this is where it is. This is the reason it's there. And back to Virginia, even when they put that firearms exclusionary zone in there, they did something, and I wish I could shake Phil Van Cleve's hand on this one today. They did something that just it shook.
It looks like Mikey froze up there for a second. But Paul, wait, is he back? Oh, fun stuff.
There he goes.
Here we go. We're there.
You froze up there real quick, sir.
I don't know where you lost. I don't know. I don't know. It was on the rant too. I don't know. Where'd you get me?
You got your take was a little too hot, man, for the internet. That's all.
No. Okay. All right. So I was ending that with saying that I wish I could have. Still, I haven't seen him in a year or so, shaking Phil Van Cleve's hand up there in Virginia, because inside the exclusionary zone where they said no firearms, they brought in a giant life-size guillotine to remind the legislators there of their authority.
Amen. Well, this kind of reminds me leading into, actually, this kind of a nice transition into our next story, where we're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, you guys know that he was an individual who, a young man who in Kenosha, Wisconsin, was there protecting businesses that were being looted because they couldn't, for some reason, law enforcement just was not as present as they needed to be. And there were businesses that were being robbed and looted and destroyed and burned down. And so he decided he wanted to go there and help protect those businesses, and was attacked by some of those rioters and protesters. And, well, he shot a few folks in self-defense. Well, his trial, they're doing a lot of the pretrial motions. And, gentlemen, it looks like the judge in his particular case is done a pretty good job of helping to make sure of allowing them to properly shape the narrative of what went down. You guys want to share some of those details?
Yeah, I'll give Paul the good stuff, but let me just preface it by saying that the reason they were there, the reason the likes of Kyle Rittenhouse was there and others were there, is because the local police recognized the threat and put out to the population and the business owners and said, we do not have the ability to defend you. We recommend you take your legally owned firearms, stand at your properties, and defend yourselves accordingly.
And the state was very, very slow to respond to send out the National Guard. Yes. So just that sets the foundation for what happened. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'll give the good stuff to Paul.
Well, I want to add that we covered this yesterday on the Daily Bullet a little bit, and there is the reason Rittenhouse lived in Illinois, worked in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is how he knew what was going on and why he was up there. And the decision that came down yesterday is that when the trial begins, the people that were shot are not allowed to be called victims at trial. They can be called rioters, they can be called arsonists, but they cannot be called victims. That is huge, because that points to the fact that they participated in the fight, and this was a fight. I'm very heartened by this. I'm hopeful that Rittenhouse gets a fair trial, and this certainly points in that direction.
Well, that's the thing is, so what he said also was that you're not allowed, the defense in their opening arguments is not allowed to call the people who got shot, the riot. We're not allowed to call them rioters or arsonists. But if in the midst of the trial they produce evidence that show that they were involved in those activities, in their closing arguments, they are allowed to call them that. The reason they're saying they're not allowed to call them victims is because that's what the trial is for. And, you're allowed to, in particular, you're not allowed to prejudice the jury against the defendant because once you call them victims, now all of a sudden that means, well, if there's victims, then there must be a victimizer. And they're not allowed to prejudice them. And I think that gives them an opportunity to have a fair trial. I don't know how anyone watches any of that video and does not conclude that whether or not you agree with whether or not he should have been there or anything like that. You can agree or disagree, but the point is that it was obvious that he was being pursued, he was being attacked, and that he was defending himself.
Yeah, this was clearly self-defense, and in the legal world, in the court systems, when you've been granted the self-defense, defense, when you get to say it was in self-defense is the reason I was shooting this, then the court agrees that you are the victim. It's not saying you're guilty or innocent. It's just saying that if your claim for self-defense was found to be justifiable to use in your trial, then you will be the one referred to as the victim. The others cannot be the victims. Again, unless you get to final arguments, and then they can call them, whatever the hell they want to. But listen, I'll tell you, I've talked to the cops there. I've seen the video there, and I've been on the flip side and seen these type of encounters going on. This was a straight, flat out run and gun battle that went on for hours. Okay, this was the cross of Kenosha and Mogadishu at one point. This was cops riding around in armored vehicles and tossing water bottles to those that came out to help them, try and maintain some semblance of law and order, Rittenhouse included. So this was nothing but chaos. This was every time you see somebody with a rifle and a plate carrier, this is that day. This is that day where those people made the difference.
Well, exactly. And anyway, I'm thoroughly excited to see how this trial goes down. It's like I said, it's amazing to me to watch that. And when you read the accounts, when you read how CNN reports these stories or MSNBC or the New York Times, they're like, this guy's, in their opinion, is a mass shooter. And they can't believe that, he actually has rights that are worthy of defending.
Yeah, amazing, right? Don't bring a skateboard to a gunfight. Maybe that should be the lesson here.
And let's go back to the one shot that I think everybody's forgetting. The one picture I think everybody's forgetting. The third person shot. The one that shows the hole in the arm. What's he holding in that injured arm that's pointing straight at the ground? A Glock.
Yep.
The third person shot was absolutely armed when he was shot.
Well, and they want to make it out. First of all, he was, from what I understand, he was a felon, so he wasn't supposed to be in possession of a firearm. That was number one. But number two, you also understand that he heard a gunshot coming from behind him. And, I'm like, clearly, I think this is obviously going to come off as self-defense. And I think in the end, the mainstream media and the left are going to be made to look like idiots once again. Anyway, but what's worse is, there are people who literally have lost their jobs over donating to his legal fund.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one police officer in what was it, Virginia, donated $25. $25 to the fund, lost his job over it. 16, 17-year veteran, because they didn't like the politics of it.
Right. It is beyond crazy. And the worst part is okay, how did that information get out? How did they? Well, obviously they got hacked. So an illegal act reported something that was done legally, and then an individual in law enforcement lost his job behind doing something legally. It is beyond crazy. Beyond crazy.
Sure it is. Well, like we've talked about all the time. Listen, the pendulum has clearly, swang one way, and it's just sitting there. And we've got to wait for it to come back, and when it comes back, it's going to hurt, folks. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt folks on the left. This is what it's going to hurt.
Yes,
right?
sir, Bob. Yes, sir, Bob.
We went through this through the Obama years. We went through Trump's. We started to swing back, and now this is the way they want to fight. And again, my fear, and just like you see in this Rittenhouse event, is that when we finally swing back, we're done with the soft gloves. All right.
Right.
It's gonna come down to a little more physical confrontation than that. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get this done on a piece of paper, right?
Right.
That's the goal. That no harm to any of us. But
Mike, it's funny you say that because there's a reason why things like "Let's Go Brandon" has become a national thing. Now, some of it I just have to admit, some of it is just that's a fad thing, but some of it is really people being upset and people being angry and people being frustrated with everything that is going on. And you can point to a specific place and recognize that they are in no small part responsible for what's going on. And that would be the White House. And that's where we come up with the euphemism, "Let's Go Brandon," which, by the way, there is a rap song called "Let's Go Brandon" that is actually #1 on the charts. And it actually replaced Adele's new album or new song, which, by the way, I haven't heard, so I don't know if it's any good, but I hear people raving about it. But "Let's Go Brandon" now appears to be the new #1 hit song that, by the way, has been banned from Instagram and YouTube.
How do you make a hit #1? Just ban it somewhere.
Just
right?
ban it.
Just ban it. Just ban it. Let's go, Brandon. Again, Kelly Stavist over there over at the I think she's a NASCAR reporter. With Brandon Brown and who'd won back at was it Talladega? I think it was at Talladega, right? When he won, and the crowd clearly yelling "F Joe Biden." She says, "Listen to that, folks! You can hear everybody yelling, 'Let's go, Brandon! Let's go, Brandon!'" And I think everybody across the nation, the control booth, everywhere, just did the whole what'd she say? Did she say? Let's go for it. Let's do it. So yeah, it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see it catching on. Yet evidently, it's not being shouted loud enough because it doesn't appear as though they've heard it in Washington D.C.
No, evidently not. They're just like, man, who's this guy Brandon, and how is he more popular than me now? Because everyone wanted to have sex with me. Now all of a sudden they're saying, "Let's go, Brandon."
Wow. They're knocking this one out. Listen, I saw, what was it today? Biden's again numbers all-time low, but yet no Democrats have abandoned his ticket. Well, you know why? Because everybody's writing it. He ain't writing it. He's got everybody else lining up to be the president. It just depends on the day of the week.
This honestly reminds me of the 70s. Nixon fell by the wayside, and then we got Ford for 4 years, and then we had Carter, and Carter was an absolute disaster. And then we had 12 great years in Reagan and Bush #1. I'm really hoping after the disaster of Biden, we're looking up coming at 2024 of 12 great pro-freedom years.
Well, it's funny you say that because yesterday we were talking about this, and we were talking about Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter, despite his politics, is a devout man of faith. I said, the reason why Jimmy Carter has lived as long as he has is because the Lord wanted him to be able to see a president who was finally worse than him. He said, "I will bless you with this. I will allow you to be here and experience someone who is worse at being president than you, so that you'll know that you won't be at the bottom of the barrel anymore." I think that now he can pass into eternity, knowing that he wasn't the worst.
And Craig, do you remember how the Lord granted him that power?
No.
Really? You don't remember this from me? Paul, it's peanut power. The
Oh,
president-
peanut power. That's right. Oh, I
President
forgot.
Carter, he has peanut power. He's from Plains, Georgia. He's grown up with the peanut dust in his blood his whole life. So he has developed immunities to everything the world has based on his ability to withstand the horrible imagery of peanuts and how it kills people these days. So former President Carter has the peanut power, and that's what the Lord gave him to see Joe Biden in office.
Peanut power.
You got the
Peanut power.
You got peanut power.
Who needs the Holy Ghost when you have peanut power, right?
That's right. Exactly right. That's right. But the dust comes in the form of the Holy Ghost.
There you go. The dust comes in the form of the Holy Ghost.
Now,
All right.
Craig, did you know that the F Joe Biden chant actually got its start a different way? Did you know this?
No.
That was originally F Joe Buck. F Joe Buck,
Oh.
the baseball broadcaster.
Oh.
This is how it got its start. That's been going on for some 20 odd years. Don't know the fascination in this guy, except when he gets in the booth and calls everything wrong. I listened to John Smoltz on Monday's game, correct him no fewer than 4 times in the first inning before I was like, I can't take it. I just can't take it.
I don't understand this now. Now, Paul, maybe you can explain this to us, because I don't watch a lot of baseball, but I watch a lot of football. And everybody I know who watches Joe Buck in football hates Joe Buck. Everybody I know in baseball who watches Joe Buck hates Joe Buck.
Now, he's a Midwesterner, so maybe Paul can help us because they're
Right.
both Midwesterners here.
What is this fascination that the networks have with putting Joe Buck as the guy on all of the broadcasts? Please enlighten us.
Think maybe Joe Buck knows Hillary Clinton's secret, and he's got dirt on the executives at the networks.
Yeah, there you go.
Because everybody in the Midwest hates Joe Buck.
That's crazy. I mean, this guy's just this horrible. The moment you look away and you hear Joe Buck will just do and there it goes, it's up, and you're like, oh my God, is it out, right? And it's caught like it's second base, and you're like,
Right.
what do we? This guy's horrible. This guy's just horrible.
He is bad. All right, so speaking of Major League Baseball, you wanted to talk about this one, Mike. Mike, would you want to talk about this one, Paul? So I'm going to let you take the lead on our next story.
Paul, just been looking forward to talking to you about this one because we both know that Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred there did a huge wrong, colluded with eight of the owners when they moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta during the All-Star break. Now, they took it away from them because of their politics and their voting rights and everything else along that line. So the Braves are in almost last place at that point, 3rd place, 4th place, and they rally together and they say, and it's like the scene from Major Leagues. They're like, well, there's only one thing we can do, win the whole freaking thing. And here we are. The Braves are now back. They're 5-0 in the postseason. So the one game got taken away from them. Now they're 5 games into the postseason at home, which is another 3 games, by the way. So they're 8 games into this in the postseason now. They did it. And here, how about the irony of all things? We've got the World Series in Texas and Georgia right now. How do you think the commissioner's feeling about all this?
They've got to just have their head in their hands going, why me? And I got to say, I am a lifelong Minnesota Twins fan, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but I believe for the first time in my life, I absolutely have to say, go Braves.
Wow, that's huge.
That's huge.
I really hope they pull this out. The Stros made it interesting last night. But I really hope the Braves pull this one out, and I really do. I hope they take this and go the rest of the way with it, and shove it right up where the sun doesn't make an appearance in the commissioner's. This is a family show where I try to broadcast as if it's a family show. I don't care much for what Major League Baseball did. It's supposed to be entertainment, not politics.
Right.
Get the politics out of baseball. Let's get the politics out of all professional sports.
I could not agree more. You know, it's funny, and Mike and I always laugh. Like, he watches the sports that he watches because he's like, look, my team and the sport in general does not support a lot of this political wokeness statements in their sport. I watch football. I watch my Cowboys because the owner there, Jerry Jones, has said I'm not having it. I've stopped watching the NBA because not only has all of the NBA decided they're going to be full woke and political, but the team that I watch specifically, the Sacramento Kings, just went full left wing woke, and I haven't watched it since, well, it's been over a year since the beginning of the lockdown. So almost 2 years I haven't watched NBA. But it's like I do politics for a living, and I do this and I talk about this stuff, and I'm like, I don't need it in my sports. It's the one place where I can go and I can hang out with someone who is a left-wing lefty, and we can root for the same team and enjoy the sport, not talking about, not dealing with politics. And unfortunately, they've ruined it.
Yeah, agreed. Listen, entertainment is what this should be. That's what I want. I want to support my team, and I want the politics out of it. And if you're a player or somebody like that, and you feel like you have the platform to stand on, agreed. As soon as the game is over and you're not wearing somebody else's name on the front of your jersey, you go ahead and do what you want, and be a philanthropist, be a promoter, do whatever you want to do. Right, but not on the field. Nobody else's employer lets you. If you got Kroger grocery store written on the front, you're not allowed to walk down aisle 7 talking politics. Okay.
Nope. Nope. You're not.
Do that in your off time.
Funny how that works.
Yep.
And if we could branch off to another sport, you're absolutely welcome to do that. Just make sure you're really good at what you do, because look at what happened to Colin Kaepernick, a second-rate quarterback playing for a second-rate team who wanted to upgrade. And then when he went woke and went woke public in a big way, all of a sudden he found when they wanted to upgrade quarterbacks, he didn't have a place to go.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, look, in particular, when you work where you work, here's the thing, folks. It depends on how expendable you are. Look, depends on how valuable you are. Because guess what? You get more leeway the better you are. The worse you are, the less leeway you get. Once again, funny, but isn't that the way it is everywhere for most of us?
Yeah, when I think of the whole Colin Kaepernick thing and whether he got drafted after that or selected by anybody else, I'm reminded of the saying, "The juice was not worth the squeeze."
That is just bad in so many different ways. I won't even get into that. I won't even get into how bad that is. Okay, so let's move on, and that actually then fits in with our parting shot of the day, and we'll go ahead and we'll pull that up. We've been doing this is like I think this is like the third one we've done dealing with this one, but these are the woke MLB execs trying to figure out how to boycott the World Series. Yeah, because the funny part was at first I was thinking, well, I guess there's not going to be any playoff games in Georgia, but they're all going to be in Texas.
Yeah. I originally thought we might have seen a Braves versus Rays series, so you'd had Florida and Georgia in there with all of our pro constitutionalities, but Georgia and Texas work just as good. We'll take it. I won't get to go see a game in Texas. I may see a game in Georgia, but this is great. This is great. They're stirring up there. Look at the stance we made, and then you watch the commissioner this week say, "Listen, we're going to let the Braves do their thing." He eased back off the Braves this week when it came to their dealing with the Native American tribes, and he just rather than jumping in, I think he really must have learned a little bit of a lesson, because he said, "Oh no, the Braves have taken care of that with the local tribe, and they're okay. So we're okay with that."
Right. Well, I anticipated that maybe they might wind up doing the World Series in Denver.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Denver. Yeah. Oh, look at this. All this Denver. Yeah.
All right, Mikey, why don't you give a shout out to all of our sponsors?
I want to thank all of our sponsors today from Grid Defense, Guerrilla Manufacturing, both a couple of fine manufacturers of America's rifles parts. So check them out. They get you some great deals. Tell them you said hey. Tell them we said hey over here on the rundown. Our good friends at the California Republican Assembly, and then of course our good friends over at Second Amendment Foundation and the Daily Bullet joining us today. Paul, tell everybody again how they get to watch you and stay in touch with the SAF's doing.
Go to the Second Amendment Foundation's Facebook page or YouTube channel at 5 p.m. Central Time every day. I'm broadcasting live. Today, you'll see Mike and I here in just a few minutes.
Yay!
Every day at 5 p.m. Central Time, you'll catch what's happening in today's news.
Bam. And there it is. So, folks, do us a favor. Now, you know that the internet gods, the tech gods, you know they don't like us. So we need your help. We need you to help spread the word about the Rundown. Please make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook channel. I know you're watching us at multiple places. I know you're watching us at Arms Room Radio. I know you're watching us at the California Republican Assembly and at 2A News. But folks, we also need you to make sure you're following our channel. And once again, that's 2A News Rundown on Facebook. That's where you find us on Facebook. And the rundown.us will take you directly to our YouTube channel. Please make sure that you're following us. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And tomorrow will be Freedback Friday. So please make sure you guys tune in and watch. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.